This is cs952, Introduction to Web Technologies and Design. And we're just about ready to start adding images to our page. But before we do this, I want to create a designated folder to hold the images for my gallery. So if I add more images, remove images, if I want to change things, I know exactly where to look to find the images that I'm using for my gallery. So we're going to go to Files, and I'm going to drag out my Files panel just to make this a little bit easier to see what we're doing. And we want to create a folder inside of our Images folder. If I click on the plus icon next to my Images folder, I can see here's my Images folder. So to add a folder to my Images folder, I right-click on the Images folder and then choose New Folder. And the name of my new folder is going to be Gallery, Gallery. So at this point we're at kind of a fork in the road. Either you already have images that you've prepared that you want to add to this website. You've got maybe 8 images, and I recommend 1,000 pixels in width, 750 pixels in height. That's what we're going to be using. You've got images that you've already prepared and you want to add them to this website, or you're going to be using the tutorial images that I've prepared for you to use. If you're going to be using your own images, you can just use Windows Explorer and drag those images right onto this newly created folder that we have here. So basically I'm saying find your USB drive if that's where you're saving your images, or maybe the folder that's on your hard drive. So for example, I'm going to, it's not quite in the video. Here we go. I'll drag this over here. So if I had a folder that I wanted to use, say on my pencil drive, that had a bunch of images that I wanted to drag over, here's some images I have, I would just take these images, highlight them, and just drag them right onto my gallery folder. That's how we would add the images that way. Okay, I'll do one just so you can see what we're talking about. I have an image called capture.png, and I just drag it straight over there, and Dreamweaver will just copy it right into the folder. That's how you would add your images to this folder. Just drag and drop. Okay, don't need that image, so I'm going to hit delete. And then Dreamweaver says, do you want to delete? And I'll say yeah. The other thing you can do is use the images that are already provided in the tutorial folder. And if you want to do that, click on the little plus icon next to the tutorial folder, and you'll see there is already a gallery folder there. Click on the plus icon for that, and just drag these 8 images over. 1, 2. I'm going to hold down the Shift key, select the first file, hold down the Shift key, second one, third one, fourth one, fifth one, sixth one, seventh one. Okay, there's my 8 images. So just click on those images and then drag them over to your gallery folder. And we're doing this so that everybody has the images that we're going to be using for this exercise. They're all in the same place, so we can kind of all go through the same steps together. So if I look at my local files, I've got a folder called Images. Inside of that I have a folder called Gallery, and then inside of that I have these 8 images that I've prepared. And again, these 8 images, they're 1,000 pixels wide, they're 750 pixels in height. That's that 4:3 ratio. And if you need a little bit more information about this, we do have several videos on preparing your images for the web. Okay, now I want to reset my window back to the normal view, so I'm going to go back here and choose Reset Beginner. The next thing we want to do is we want to add a div after my H2 gallery, my heading. I want to add a div after this. So the easiest way to do this is to just click with your cursor after that closing H2 tag. I'm going to hit enter to give myself a new line, and then go to Insert and choose Div. And at this point you can just answer OK, don't need to change anything else. And now we've got a div. Okay. Now we want to give this div an ID because we're going to be creating some special rules for this div. And we're going to create a new ID for this div. So I'm going to go to CSS Designer, and then I want to make sure that under Sources I have Styles selected. That's where we're saving all of our style rules for our website, and I want to make sure I have global selected. And then I will click plus to add a selector. I need to add a new selector, and I'm going to name this new selector #. Remember, if your selector starts with a #, it's an ID. If it starts with a period, it's a class. In this case, we want it to be an ID. There's only going to be one of these on this page, and this is going to help us identify exactly this div. And so I'm typing photo, P-H-O-T-O, and then capital G-A-L-L-E-R-Y. So this will help me remember this is the ID for my photo gallery. I'm going to call it photo gallery, and then I'm going to hit enter. Okie dokie. Now, next step, I don't need this placeholder content, right? This content for new div tag goes here. We can get rid of that. Just hit delete. And since I did that delete, Dreamweaver is going to want me to refresh the page. So let me hit refresh. And now I'm going to use the property inspector to assign my div. I've got my cursor right inside of that div. Yep. If I look down here in my property inspector, it's showing me the properties for my div. If I want to make sure that I'm in the right place, I can click on the div and my status bar. Yeah, that looks better. So I've got my div selected here and my status bar, and then we have div ID. What ID do I want to assign to this div? And if I click here, you can see I have two choices. We have icons 3. That's the selector we created for the home page. We're not going to be using that one. Instead, we're going to be using photo gallery. That's the new selector that we just created. And then when I do that, you can see the code changes and it says ID equals photo gallery. And we're ready to get started adding images to our page. So we're actually going to pick that up in our next video, because once we get started adding images, we're going to step right on through, and it's going to be 8 images in a row.